Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. Today, I'm talking about speed work. And this is something I've observed not just from talking with other coaches, but in my own clients. And this is prompted by a question I got in the comments the other day. Someone had said, hey, do we really need to do the squat, bench, and deadlift to get really strong? Can't we just build most of our strength doing accessory works like split squats, good mornings, so on and so forth? He asked me this. He's like, because these lifts don't always have the best stimulus to fatigue. Can't we do this? And it's kind of funny he asked that because that's what you guys see me do most of the time. I've run phases where I have done otherwise, and I didn't make any better progress to where I did do rep work on the big three. And again, benching kind of the odd man out. We can get away with more benching in terms of recovery. And the pause bench itself is a more technical lift than the other two. But something that I have observed in my own clients over the last couple of years is that my lifters who do rep work on the squat or the deadlift do not get stronger any quicker. They're generally a little more fatigued, a little more beat up. They have to deload more often. All right? They have to deload more often as a result of it. So we come over to the question, and people will say, well, then don't we need to practice these moves? Yeah, to some extent, we do need some practice on these moves to get good at them. And that's where speed work comes in. This is where dynamic effort work comes in because you are practicing these moves. Now, some people would say, well, is a box squat really practice? Sure, a speed box is practice for a back squat. It's the same movement. In fact, I've had plenty of lifters who don't back squat at all. We do only box squats and other supplemental work. We pull the box out and they hit a 50-pound PR while doing 0 normal back squats between. In fact, I've had lifters who do that, quite a few who've done that actually, who we don't even do real rep work on the box squat. We just do maxes and we do dynamic effort work, and most of the practice coming from the dynamic. Because if you learn to box squat correctly, what's going to happen? It's going to transfer over to your power squat. It's going to transfer over. You just get the stretch reflex added. It's the exact same movement, except that you don't pause on the box, and you get to activate a stretch reflex. Now, there's a little bit of timing with that. And some lifters need a little more practice with that than others, but a lot don't. A lot don't. And I mean, I literally have clients who I have gotten up to 500-pound squats without doing back squats. I have clients who have done it doing back squats, as I've always tested both to kind of watch what happens with my different groups. But there seems to be no disadvantage at all to not doing any back squats, and to, again, limiting even the box squats to max effort and dynamic effort. So basically we're doing speed squats and maybe hitting a max box every week or every other week, okay, of some variation. And then we do speed squats off the box, which are not fatiguing. That's what people have to remember. The fatigue is much, much lower. So you can take these big lifts that have a very high fatigue. They have a good stimulus, but they have a high fatigue. And we can take them over to a low fatigue exercise. We end up actually getting hypertrophy out of this. We end up developing power and rate of force production out of doing the speed work, but we also get to practice some of the technique. We practice some of the technique. Same thing, we come over to deadlifts. I have a lot of deadlifters who are in the mid 500s, a couple who've hit 600 plus, but I have plenty of deadlifters up in the mid 500s who we don't deadlift. We only do speed pulls. So they do speed pulls and maxes. And the maxes are variations. I just had a lifter who this week, we have not done any raw conventional deadlifts. He's normally stronger on sumo. He sumo's 550. We came in and tested his conventional because we haven't done it in 3 months. And he just hit a 565. This guy weighs 180, by the way. He had a 565 conventional, and we haven't done any conventional pulling. We do some speed conventional against bands. A lot of times, we do speed deficit conventionals, but he does a lot of sumo speed pulls too. He's been stronger on sumo up until this point, but because we built his back up, what happened? His back was a weak link, so I've had him do a lot more rowing and a lot of pull-ups, and we pushed those really hard for months, and like some hang pulls and things. Like, this is what he does, and then magically again the deadlift goes up. We haven't practiced it. It's not that necessary. And I'm not saying it's wrong to do this. What I'm saying is this is a different method that produces just as good of results, but your lifters and your athletes get less beat up. And it really matters for your athletes who are not lifting athletes. Right? That being beat up matters a lot. Matters tremendously. Bench is the odd man out, and that bench doesn't beat you up as much. Bench doesn't beat you up as much, and there can be some merit to practicing the bench press. But I also have lifters who have pretty good benches, again, talking relative body weight relative to other lifts, who we don't really do a lot of pause benching because they have access to a lot of stuff, right? I have a lifter who has access to more equipment. They have a lot of dumbbells, everything else. A lot of times I'll run them through phases to where we do lots of dumbbell presses at a couple angles. We do incline, we can do flat, we can do decline. Yet they get bench PRs just from their speed benching. We come in and when we test their pause bench, they get PRs. Right? I have drug-free guys under 200 pounds who are benching 315 or more, who we do a lot of that method. Like, we'll do pause benching. We'll do it for rep work sometimes, but we run phases without it. And in those phases without it, they still end up getting stronger on their bench because we still have the speed bench to practice setting up, to practice getting tight, to practice the bar path. We're not necessarily pausing on it, but we're still practicing benching. Doing our speed work, which again, people have to remember has its own hypertrophic response. It doesn't beat you up. And then we fill in the gaps with supplemental work. All these lifters, we do all these other movements. We do good mornings. We might do Romanian deadlifts. A lot of them do glute bridges, reverse hypers, hyper extensions, single leg exercises, sometimes machine quad exercises, right? Sometimes they'll run a phase on a hack squat machine or something, depending on what they have at their gym. If they don't have anything like that, we can do single leg exercises just to build the quads up. We build the deadlift with all the back work, rows, pull-ups, good mornings, direct hamstring work, glute bridges, okay? Benching, we just need chest, shoulder, and tricep exercises. We just hypertrophy everything. So we spend the rest of the training time just doing hypertrophy work for all the muscles that we need to get these lifts up. And the lifters get stronger all the time doing this, month after month after month after month. And these are oftentimes my advanced guys. They're hitting PRs year round while really not doing that many of the classic lifts. So again, it works. It works, particularly when you're trying to maximize hypertrophy. Because we need supplemental volume for that, and we need to be able to recover from our weekly volumes. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.